Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 has a big problem with hypoxia and cabin pressurization in the PC-12. However, I've found a way to overcome that problem, and it's not by using any plugins or fixes or patches or anything like that. It's just a different way of flying the Pilatus PC-12. So let's jump right in and I'll show you how to fly at flight level 250 rather than having to stick around 180 or 190 to avoid this kind of problem. The surefire way to fail is by setting your flight level to 250 and then using FLC, flight level change mode, to get up to that altitude. While you do that, you're going to start experiencing cautions and warnings because the pressurization is going to be too much and it's going to exceed the limits of the aircraft as well as tolerance for passengers and crew as you start to ascend to that level. So we have to think a little bit differently. Instead of using flight level change mode, we're going to do something a little bit different as we ascend into flight level, or up to flight level 250. So quickly, we'll jump into a new mission, and I'm going to just send the mission to avionics. I've already pre-programmed it into there, and I'm just going to quickly run through how I'm going to set this up. So I'm just going to set up my runway at the other end, or my approach at the other end. Remove the discontinuity that keeps showing up. Not sure if that's a thing in the real PC-12, but it didn't get fixed here in SU2. So anyway, we're going to go up to flight level 180 at first, because as we know from what I just showed you and how we've been flying before, that if we set to flight level 250 and go up via FLC, it's going to fail. So we'll go to 180 via FLC mode and then utilize the rest of our autopilot settings and make our way up to flight level 180 to begin with. And comment if you'd like, or just ignore, but I just tried to rush through this to record it because I tried it so many times and I kept getting the crash to desktop coming up, and it just was getting so frustrating that I just wanted to quickly get this video going. So don't copy me on taking off with another runway right there, or another pilot or another aircraft, sorry, right there on the runway, and basically just throwing this thing up into the air. But the point of the video is not on that airmanship, it's on how we're going to get up to flight level 250 and not suffer the constant error of hypoxia and cabin pressurization. So start flying, turn on autopilot mode, and we'll start our climb via flight level change up to flight level 180. And as we go up there, take a look down in the bottom right where we can see what our pressure is and what the cab rate is in feet per minute. So our pressure, the max pressure in the PC-12 is 5.8 psi. And what I've found so far through testing is that 5.74, oh yeah, nice. Just jumping right into it, none of the lights were set up right. So yeah, again, airmanship, not so much, but FL250, that's what this video is all about. So back to the pressure. 5.8 is the max. 5.74 is where I've seen it start to have that error pop up. So, or not the error, I guess, but just the hypoxia issue come up. So we want to make sure that we stay below that. And when the PC-12 is initially climbing up to flight level 180, we can see that the cabin pressurization system is working well, because we see the cabin rate, it's maintaining at 0. It's not increasing anything higher than that. So we're not adding to any pressure for the inside for the passengers or the crew. It's just maintaining a constant level where we're not going to be able to notice anything with it. Pressure is climbing, but again, we're not anywhere near the limitation of the aircraft, which is 5.8, and where I've seen it start to have that problem at about 5.74. So we'll continue our climb up to flight level 180. And just continue to monitor the pressure. And it's behaving exactly like we would want it to. Everything is good, looks nice outside. Maintaining 140 knots. Autopilot system is keeping us dialed right in. Right now, as we approach flight level 180, we're going to have to take some action here. So first is when we get to 180, we're going to have to change our pressure to standard. And as we make that change to standard, the aircraft is going to stop ascending and level us out at flight level 180. And we can see our pressure is still sitting at a safe level, and the cabin rate is sitting at 0. So everything is still good at this point. And this is where, in career mode and everything, we've been okay. So now we'll set our altitude up to flight level 250. And instead of using flight level change mode, which is going to fail us for sure, we're going to use vertical speed mode. So we're going to set our vertical speed control to a level that's going to keep our pressure in the range that we want it in. So the cabin rate, from the research that I've done, it sounds like 700 feet per minute is where it's going to have an effect on crew and passengers. So we're going to try to keep the cabin rate below 700. And I tried to do close to the max, like around 650, 600 consistently, and it didn't give me the result I was looking for. I would still have the warnings and cautions start to show up. So instead, we're going to try to keep that cabin rate below 500 or around 500 at the most. So we'll just use the vertical speed control to get us up to flight level 250. So at first, when we're a little bit lower, we can have that vertical speed take us up a little bit faster. But once we get closer to the top, we're going to have to slow our ascent, because otherwise the pressure is just going to increase too much. And the cabin rate is going to become too high and will cause us to fail. So you can see now the cab rate is starting to climb, and we need to overcome that because now we're up much higher than what we want to be. So to fix that, we're going to have to use vertical speed to bring the nose down. We don't want to be climbing as fast because we want to be able to get that number down to, around 500 or 500 and below, to know that we're not going to have any issue as we continue to climb. So the trick here is not to just set it and forget it. Don't just set it to a certain climb rate and then just walk away and go do something else. You have to stick to it until you get up to your cruise altitude of flight level 250. So just monitor the pressure and the cabin rate below in the bottom right, and then make sure that you try and keep that around 500. If you do that, as we continue to climb up to flight level 250, we're going to be okay. We're not going to have, any kind of lights pop up. It's going to be a nice, smooth ascent up to flight level 250, and we're going to be able to continue our flight without having the hypoxia problem come up. So we can fly up at 250 and take advantage of that increase in altitude and performance. It's not too difficult as long as you're not making drastic changes, just small changes, quite often just 100 feet per minute at a time is all you need to do. If you end up lowering it too much and your cabin rate, you notice it's, maybe 100 or 200, you can bring it up again to try to, get up to altitude faster while maintaining around that 500 or below on the cabin rate. And as you can see, where we always failed before around, through flight level 200, 210 for sure, now we're over flight level 230 and everything is still fine. We don't have any warnings, cautions, no bells, no nothing. Everything is smooth as we continue our ascent, albeit not as fast as if we are using flight level change mode, but as we know, that's not going to work. So we have to use vertical speed mode to get us up there and maintain proper pressure as we make our ascent. And you'll probably also notice too, there's the lever just to the right here, just off the left leg of the co-pilot for pilot's oxygen. That's the supplemental oxygen that we don't need while we're doing this. I initially thought I'd have to flip that on all the time, but don't actually need it. I've tested that both in career mode and free flight, and having it on or off doesn't make a difference. So we'll just continue ascending. Make sure that the cabin rate again stays around that 500 or below as we slowly make our way up to flight level 250. Now, isn't that a thing of beauty? So turn on VNav. But as you can see now, so we're up at flight level 250. Pressure is stabilized, and the cab rate also is stabilized at 0. Or it's going to fluctuate a tiny bit just with minor increases to our altitude, but it's going to be staying pretty stable. So I'm just going to bring up the speed here to show you that with speed increases, we're going to see some slight pressure changes. And that's going to lead to the next portion where I'm going to talk about using sim rate. Because I initially thought that now that I'm up here at flight level 250, everything is great. And, if you're doing a mission and you're just trying to, make money in career mode, you can turn on sim rate. However, it's not going to work, which stinks. I haven't tested it yet, but maybe if you go to flight level 240 instead of 250, it might work. But I think at 250, we're right on the verge of the limitations for the aircraft in Flight Simulator 2024. So when we go to sim rate, it's unfortunately not going to work. And before I show you, do you have any thoughts as to why it might not work? I'll leave that one with you for a few moments here, and then I'll skip forward to show you. I'm not going to go to sim rate but I'm going to show you the thing that happens, and it's going to be a good indicator for you to, if you've done sim rate before and you've seen kind of how the aircraft behave, you'll understand why it's not going to work. So we'll just skip forward to that and give you a good understanding of why sim rate unfortunately isn't going to work, but at least we're still flying up far higher. So if we were flying with sim rate, you notice the planes sometimes they jump up and down, they swerve side to side. So watch what happens here. When we hit a little bit of turbulence, you'll see our altimeter move, and then also we'll see our cabin rate move quite a bit as well too. So the aircraft, when it's in real-time mode, I guess, not sim rate increased mode, it's able to overcome that, and it's able to keep it within the limits that we're okay with. So we're around that 5.72. The cabin rate, it dropped and then it jumped up again, but it still wasn't anything too drastic. If you've been flying sim rate, you've probably seen that the aircraft end up bouncing around quite a bit and swerving side to side quite a bit. And the faster that you sim rate, the more drastic those movements become, and the slower the aircraft is to compensate for them. So when I've tested this and I've gone into sim rate, when you do hit a little bit of turbulence, the fluctuation to the pressure and the cabin rate, unfortunately, is too much. And we end up in a situation where, even though we're up here at flight level 250 and we haven't had any warnings or anything on the way up, that sim rate is going to do us dirty and cause the pressure to fluctuate too much, and it's going to be instant failure. So you have to either fly a little bit lower and trust that the aircraft's going to be able to keep up, or just don't do it. I guess those are the options right now. But regardless, I'm pretty happy to see that we can now actually fly up a lot higher than we could before. So hope that helped. If you have any questions on that, just let me know, and you can drop a comment right there and give it a rip. Let me know how it works. I've tested it both in free flight and career mode, so hope you are able to put this to use either at FL250 or 240, whatever you're going to decide to run at, and we'll see you in the sky. Hope you enjoyed that.